Hello, my name is Padraig and welcome to the next live interview in the Truth According to series. Today I'm joined by Pooja Khatri, a youth activist from Plan UK. Thanks for coming to the studio this morning, Pooja.
Thank you.
Pooja, sorry. For those of you who don't know, could you tell us a bit about what you do and what the main aims and beliefs of Plan UK, the organisation, are?
Absolutely. So I basically work on the youth advisory panel for Plan UK, and essentially what Plan International is a worldwide children's development organisation. And effectively what they do is they work with communities all around the world, communities that are in need of most of Plan's help, and they target lots of issues from girls' rights to children's education. And one of the big campaigns they work on is Because I'm a Girl campaign, which is probably you may have heard of.
I had a look at it, yeah. Beverly Knight's one of the faces of it. Yeah,
and I basically work on the youth advisory panel, and what that is basically a panel of young people, aged roughly 11 to 18, that help meet the organizational kind of goals. Because effectively what Plan have is called a CCCD approach, a child-centered community development approach. And so what they find is very important is if you're working with young people on ground, that it's very important at the same time young people are consulted. And that's what they do at a kind of a national level, at country national level, UK level, where they consult young people in more strategic areas. So I have worked with Plan for about 3 years, and I've worked on a lot of projects, and I'm essentially an ambassador and activist for the organisation, although I've done some other work as well. So that really is...
And how or why did you get into it?
Yeah, so I think initially, I mean, I was quite young actually when I got involved. I think I was about 14, 15. And I knew at that time that I really genuinely just wanted to make a difference. I wanted to get involved in an organization where young people are all in the kind of same fight, and that they all have the same purpose and they all want to do the same thing, and that is genuinely just make a difference. And I do think that some of the issues that Plan work towards, girls' rights and girls, just education in general, I think are very key issues in the world we live in today. And so when I was young, I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to get involved and really be at the forefront of these issues. So I think that's in a nutshell why I did. And I've had numerous opportunities to work on the issues involved and genuinely make a difference.
In terms of the role of young people, how hard is it to get young people into this kind of thinking where to work in charities, or are they always enthusiastic about it, even people like yourself, or is it harder for them to be heard, to get their voices heard? I think the first question is it hard to get them involved? Well, absolutely not. I think young people out there have a genuine interest and genuine passion to make a difference. I mean, I know so many young people my age that are so connected with the world we live in today, politics in general, or be it international development. And I think a great example of this is the ICS scheme, the International Citizen Service Scheme. I'm not sure if you've heard of it. I haven't.
It's basically a UK government-funded development programme that basically brings young people together between the ages of 18 and 25 to basically fight poverty overseas. So I myself volunteered this summer along with a group of other young people, and I think that's testament to the fact that young people out there do really want to make a difference. I mean, but I think in certain arenas where the government is involved, I think there's obviously this huge issue around a lack of concern, or that the government is listening to young people. And I think that is really where the issue lies. Government should really listen to young people, because there are so many issues that are out there that are affecting young people. And I think essentially they need to be consulted on the issues that are affecting them. So I think that kind of addresses both aspects. But I do think young people, there's so many young people that want to get involved, and I think if they're given the platform and the opportunity, and if they're listened to, then I most certainly think they have the potential to contribute and better help, be it the world we live in, but also the government make better policy decisions.
You mentioned the Youth Council.
what exactly is that, and what kind of issues do you deal with, or what issues are important to these young people?
So I think what you're referring to is, I think it's the youth parliament.
This is it, yeah.
That I was involved in for 3 years. Sorry, can you repeat your question again?
Basically, what is the youth parliament?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So basically, youth parliament is an organization for young people that is led by young people, and effectively, so all around the UK, we have different areas, and each constituency has its own youth parliament. And really, this is made up of young people in local communities who are just really passionate about making a change and basically targeting the local issues affecting young people in their locality. So, I was part of the youth parliament for about 3 years, and I've worked on numerous issues, be it health and sanitation or to, crime. So actually, for 1 year, I was basically part of the a youth MP for my constituency, where I represented Harrow at the UK Youth Parliament. And one of the projects that I worked on was called a scrutiny project. And what that essentially was looking at the issues affecting young people out there. And I had to conduct a research report, and I had to write that along with my fellow colleague, and basically present this to decision makers out there. And some of the key issues we identified, for example, was crime in our area and the relationships between police and young people. So I think these are some of the issues, and we've worked on so many other projects and campaigns as well. But I think this is a real testament to young people out there who want to make a difference and who actually are genuinely involved and in politics and want to be the force for change, as you may say it.
What kind of skills? It sounds like you have an amazing skill set from that. What kind of skills have you learned, and can you bring with you that will help you achieve later in life?
Yeah, absolutely. I think number one, it's definitely developed my confidence in particular, and the ability to articulate to any stakeholders out there, and being able to just voice my concerns. And I think even I think confidence really is a key issue out there, which I think a lot of young people need, because I think there are a lot of young people out there my age as well that have a genuine interest and they have an opinion, but I think they maybe lack the confidence. And I think that's very important, especially when you're an activist, to be able to go out there and also to be able to work in a team, because a lot of what I do is working in teams. So with the charity I work with, we're about a group of 15, and then in the youth parliament we're a huge group of people, and we're always working in teams and we're always collaborating. And I think that's number one. I think is a very important asset to have when you're an activist. The art of collaboration and communication, which I think if young people bear that in mind and activists involved, I think they can really go far and towards achieving their goals.
What impact then can young people, or have young people had on government decisions?
Yeah, I think there are many cases where young people have had an impact, for starters, the Youth Parliament basically have this campaign called Make Your Mark campaign. It's basically a ballot run by the British Youth Council. And what that essentially is where young people vote for issues that affect them, and then members of the UK Youth Parliament have the opportunity to discuss those issues in the yearly debate at the House of Commons. And I think last year alone, I believe 470,000 young people voted.
Wow.
Yes.
It's a massive amount.
It really is. And when you think about that, you just think...
Power in numbers.
Yes, exactly. And you just think to yourself, wow, these are young people so engaged and connected. So A, they can most certainly have an impact. And B, also, what came out of this House of Commons debate was a project on transport. And I'm not sure of the exact specifics, but I know that they set up a transport committee group, and lots of discussions were made with people within Parliament, and policies were forged, and it was a very, very effective project, and all due to young people's votes and young people's interest in an issue that affects them. So I think, like you said, power in numbers. If you have a large group of young people coming together, I think we can really make a difference.
In terms of something that happened recently, the Scottish referendum, they had the voting age was 16. Would you want that for all general elections coming up next year? Do you think at 16 you can make a decision? 16-year-olds can make the decision.
I mean, I have to be honest, I'm not 100% sure about the voting age, but I think what is very important is that young people are given a civic education, and that it's in the curriculum, and that young people, because I think it really does start from a young age. If you involve young people and really get them in these issues, then I think they do have the potential at the age of 16 to make decisions.
Does that come from school, or does it come from your parents? Where do you think it stems from?
I think school is definitely a very big source, which I do think the government are responsible for instilling an education that really engages young people and gets them involved from a young age.
How connected do you feel to politics? Do you feel apathetic, disillusioned? Is that an unfair depiction, or?
I mean, I do feel very connected, and I know a lot of young people who are very connected, and so the idea that young people are apathetic or disillusioned is quite far from the truth. I mean, I myself also worked on a project with other very like-minded young people, and it was basically a project at European level, where it was called a climate change declaration project. And what it essentially was a declaration written by young people, and it was then presented to MEPs, members of the European Parliament, to basically get them involved in consulting young people on the issues of climate change. And so a lot of work was a lot of work was gone into reaching out MEPs and telling them the importance of this declaration and the importance of engaging young people, and also implementing sustainability in the school curriculum. And we also went to Brussels, and we led a session with them. And afterwards, about 123 MEPs from 26 of the 27 EU countries signed up. And I think, as I said, this is a project led by young people, a declaration written by young people, which just goes to show actually how concerned young people are. So the fact that, out there in the media that young people are apathetic is not fair at all. Although you might have the minority, but I think the large majority, especially in the world we live in today, where everything is so interconnected, and you've got globalization, you've got the media, and young people are very interested. And if you give them a platform to express their views and to be listened to, then I think that's where you can see that young people are genuinely connected.
That was one of my questions. What's the best platform, do you think, to give them their views?
I think very simple methods like consultations, be it in person or be it via online. And, I mean, some of the work I did with Youth Parliament was directly going to the council and speaking to councillors face to face, and it's having that communication. I mean, you also have to bear in mind, although technology is helping us a lot, I think face to face communication and actually reaching out there is a very important part, especially when you're working with young people, when it might be easier for them to express their views, vocally.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And I think it's simple methods like this which I think do work very, very well.
In terms of, you mentioned online there, social media, do you think it's a good or a bad thing? It can be both, but I mean, for young people to get their voices heard.
I think what I've increasingly seen is that technology has allowed young people to express their views more and to be listened to. And especially with, you have social media platforms like Facebook and Twitter, and it is very transparent. And if someone has a view, it will be shown to the wider world. And I think in that sense, I think politicians might feel a little bit scared. And then I think that's kind of paved the way for them to really start listening to young people, because I think it's a platform where you've been able to really express your views. And I do think I think it has really helped young people go out there and voice their opinions. And become more engaged in politics. So I do think it has helped a lot. But as I said, I don't think we should forget other means of communication in this whole bubble of technology.
You mentioned earlier you went overseas.
Yes.
Was that to do some work for, yeah? And was it? Do you feel that you made a difference?
Absolutely. So so just to mention again, so I volunteered with the International Citizen Service. I don't know if I mentioned that.
No, you didn't. Yeah, you mentioned what it was.
Slightly what it was. And it was over this summer for 3 months. I thought to myself, I've got 3 months in my hands, and I really want to do something. I want to be productive. I want to make a difference out there, especially because I'd worked with Plan International for about 3 years, doing so much work at a kind of strategic level. I thought to myself, I think it'd be a great opportunity to see for myself, go to a developing country and see for myself what are some of the challenges facing communities out there. So essentially, I went to Ghana for 3 months, and I went to northern Ghana in a city called Tamale, which I'd say the north is really where there are high levels of poverty, and which is a reason why we work there. Although Ghana in general is a pretty affluent country if you compare it to the west of Africa. And what I was essentially doing was I was teaching English to students in rural communities, and it was basically a pilot project. So it was a project that had never been set up before, and we essentially set up a summer school for young people, and it was a free summer school, and we really tried to make it fun as well, not just teaching English, but also equipping them with other skills and kind of making them want to come to school. And I think, essentially it was a 12-week program. We did only teach for 4 weeks, which I think is one of the kind of drawbacks of development, and also kind of one of the criticisms of the project. But what I did see was that after the 4 weeks, because we did a test at the beginning and at the end to see what how their literacy levels improved and by what extent.
And they had?
And they had. And I do have to admit, maybe not significantly,
as you want them to, yeah.
But most certainly it did.
But you made a change.
And I did feel so. And I think the biggest arena in which I felt the change was made was in their confidence levels, because I think a lot of them just lacked the genuine confidence to speak English. And so although their reading, writing and listening may have improved by just a small amount, I think their speaking really improved, and I think that's a very important point, because I think you need young people out there who are able to I think if you have the confidence to speak English, you can also become a leader in your community and make those powerful decisions. And I do think in that sense a significant change was made. And also, just to mention, we were working with a Canadian charity, Canadian NGO called Create Change, and they basically, they were a partner organization to the charity I was working with, International Service. And what we were also doing for the first 2 weeks were we were helping to raise awareness of the organization and some of the fantastic work they do, because some of the work they do is they sponsor girls, and they also, girls who then have finished their education, then intern at the organization and do several work, be it teaching or helping out in the office, and basically giving them employment. And so some of the other work we also did was we went on radio stations and we presented on what the charity does, and I also helped them with a team to set up a fundraising strategy. And in that sense, I also felt like we were able to help a local charity, which isn't huge, but that make a difference, and we were able to better support them. So I feel like a huge change was made, and I do think it's a fantastic project. And I had some other colleagues, because there were 5 projects in northern Ghana, and another project was called the RAINS project. And what they were essentially doing was they were going into local communities to basically raise awareness on safe, on sexual reproductive health and how to have safe sex. And it was very informative. And they also came to some of the schools that we worked in, and they led workshops in a very sensitive manner. And they were able to make a genuine impact. And another project involved was microfinance and kind of more business related. And so many different...
Something for everyone.
Exactly. And all of these issues that are so important. And another project was also working on disabilities. So I think it's an absolutely fantastic program, really making a difference out there. And difference made by young people in the UK who are genuinely really interested and just want to get involved.
How did it make you feel?
It made me feel absolutely... I mean, I have to admit, when I came back, I was just a bit like...
It's a different world.
Yeah, it really was. Like, even just... I remember the first hot shower I had. It just felt like luxury.
Yeah.
And...
Do you think we take things for granted slightly?
Absolutely. And, I mean, it was one thing, you know, having lived here for most of my life here in the UK. And you hear about all these issues in the news, and you know, working with Plan International, you know, you hear about all these things happening out there. But it's very different when you actually go there and see it for yourself, and you actually understand what it's like, and it makes you what's the word, a better citizen, and a lot more informed, aware citizen. And I thought it was absolutely fantastic. It really did open up my eyes, and I think I'd like to say that I do feel a lot more empowered and a lot more empowered to make a change and to really fight for these young people out there. But
you must have been inspired by someone else to go out there, or did you go on your own? You went with a team, I take it, or was there a group? Was that daunting before you went, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I actually went with a group of UK volunteers.
Did you know any of them?
Well, no, I didn't. I mean, we had a training residential where we got to meet them for one day, but they were all strangers. And by the 3 months, I mean, we
best friends.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's really the arts of living, meeting new people and encountering these challenging situations where you don't know people. But I think that's also part of development, you know, meeting and also getting really accustomed to unfamiliar situations. But also, I have to bear in mind that a lot of the development work we did wasn't just us, UK, coming into Ghana, making a difference. Actually, my team alone, there were only 3 UK volunteers and 11 national Ghanaian volunteers. Wow. So a key part of the project was working with the local people and using their expertise, which I think is very important in development, rather than just imposing your own way.
Yeah. So you'd encourage others to go?
Absolutely.
And go back yourself. Yeah.
I would absolutely love to go back there myself. Maybe set up my own organization, because I feel like I've had so much experience in this, in the field. And I would most certainly encourage young people from the UK to apply. But also one thing was prior to actually going out there for 3 months, a lot of the work involved was also fundraising. I
was going to ask how it's for fundraising.
Yeah,
okay, fundraising.
Actually,
all donations.
Yeah, so actually, the government, as I mentioned, it's a UK government-funded volunteering program, and I believe it's either 80-20 or 90-10. Government funded. I forgot.
80, the majority then.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
That's a lot, yeah.
Yeah, and I myself had to raise £800 in order to go on to the scheme.
How did you do that?
How did I do that? I did it, well, it was very daunting at first because this was during my exam period. And
it's a lot of money then.
Yes, it is actually. But I think some very simple, effective methods worked. And I mean, obviously, first and foremost, I reached out to my family and friends via, social media networks, Facebook and all of that.
Emailing.
Yes. But I also I had really great support. I actually, I called up an organization called Rotary. I had never known them before, but apparently they're quite, they are big. They are established, yes. I asked them if I could present on what I was going to do in Ghana. And so I went there to their meeting. They have weekly meetings. And they also supported me by giving me a check to support my work out there. Because I think it's something that they believed was going to make a difference. And so I reached out to organizations like that. I also, sold all my old textbooks and did some cake sales. And I mean, it was a lot, but it kind of, I think that was an integral part of the experience because it really equips you for what you're going to do out there, and it really makes you think, why is it that you're going to go out there? Because when you're basically when you're reaching out there to people for funds, you're having to explain yourself, and you're having to think about why it is actually that you are doing it. And I think it was a very important part of the experience.
You're so inspirational at such a young age.
Oh, thank you.
That's what I was going to say. What can we do the government, the people, to get other young people to do this, to take a leap, or to go out there and help and volunteer and give something back? And even it doesn't have to be to Ghana. It could be even in your local community, can it?
Absolutely. I think the government can do a lot.
What aren't they doing now that they should be? In schools, do you think that's where they should be reaching out?
I think that is a starter, but also just having schemes in place, like for example this ICS scheme. If you have it there, then young people are going to take advantage of it.
How did you find out about it? Through someone else?
You know what? I think it was a simple Google search.
Yeah, was it? Yeah.
And I don't think there's enough of these schemes out there for young people. And if you give them a platform, if you allow them to utilize their potential, then I think they can do a lot and use their skills and expertise. So also one thing to bear in mind, I forgot to mention as well, is Plan International. They what they're very good at doing, and a very effective way of engaging with young people, is a youth advisory panel. But also they actually have a youth observer on the board of trustees, and they also have a youth trustee. And what that has meant is very meaningful engagement with young people and gaining their view. And our youth trustee himself, he's a young person with a lot of expertise, and he's able to bring that to the ground because there has been a platform to do so. So I think in a very similar fashion, if the government has those platforms, then I think young people with expertise and a willingness and an interest,
I'll take off more and more, and it's word of mouth then as well. Yeah. And more people will do it, definitely. So you think on a global level the power of young people is set to increase, or is increasing? Well,
I do think so. And I think a good example is Malala.
I was going to ask you about her.
Yes. I mean, she is a real testament to the power of young people. And I think also in her situation as well, I think technology and the media in particular really helped her bring that about.
Yes.
And in her case, it did show the world, if you listen to a young person who has the knowledge of what's going on there, it really does make a difference, and makes the issues come out and alive more. And I do think this the might of young people is set to increase, as I said, with media out there and with the world so interconnected, and just really I don't know how to put it, but interested in what we have to say.
What impact do you think Malala winning the Nobel Peace Prize has now, or has had?
Do
you think it's a turning point, basically, for influencing young people? Yeah.
I do think so.
She's 17, is she?
I believe so, very young. And
I think just her story was so incredible. Yeah.
I remember the first day, actually. I think this was just a few days after she was shot, and Plan actually launched a campaign. Well, it was the launch of the Day of the Girl. I think that's every year in October.
Oh, they have. Oh, right.
Yes, and I still remember it. It was so powerful. Her story. It made the day so much more alive, because obviously you have the International Day of the of women, and you have water, etc. There was never an International Day of the Girl, and Plan actually campaigned with the UN to establish this day, and it was established. And again, that was a great example of where schools were involved, Plan linked schools, and they did a lot of fundraising, and they were involved on the day and really getting involved and raising awareness. And then even thereafter, the second year, Plan had an event on Trafalgar Square where girls went on a walk around London, and they raised funds. And I think I'd like to say that I think the world kind of came together after the story of Malala, and really kind of it was a focal point in standing up for a very important issue, which is girls' education. And I think the world is starting to take it a lot more seriously than it was before. And obviously now with the Millennium Development Goals having come to an end, and with the rise, the establishment of new goals being set, I think her case has really come at the right time, at the right moment.
She's a great role model.
I think she is, absolutely.
Except for Malala, did you have a role model growing up? Any that you can think of? Maybe, or who else would you think would be a good role model? I know a lot of people say these days that Angelina Jolie is for her work that she's doing with the UN. And
yes.
Yeah.
I think also, I like to say Aung San Suu Kyi.
Oh yeah, okay.
I think
I got to meet her.
Oh, did you? That must have been brilliant. Oh wow. I think her determination is one thing I think is so important.
Nelson Mandela probably would have been one of mine as well.
Really? I think having that determination is so important in anything you do out there. And that's one thing she had, the credibility, the ability to fight for her beliefs, regardless of her situation, regardless of the circumstances, I think is incredible.
Still remain so peaceful.
Exactly.
And not hatred against the world.
Exactly.
So that's something we touched on already. Yes, it's very important. Informing policy, how important do you think it is to listen to young people's opinions? And is it hard to get taken seriously, or by seniors? And then do you find that? No. Have you had any experience of that?
I think in certain situations it can be very tokenistic.
Okay.
Youth engagement, because I think a lot of organizations just kind of want to have it for the namesake.
So, yeah, that's what you don't want. Yeah,
yeah,
that's why I was
exactly.
asking.
And I think it's very important that we overcome that tokenism, and that is that is the difficulty. And I think Plan is really a good example of where it's not tokenistic. As I said, the board of trustees and having a young person out there and really being listened to. I mean, I know the Youth Observer and the trustee. I mean, they've inputted on budget decisions to advertising campaigns, because obviously whether it's even advertising campaign itself, just knowing what young people out there want and what they want to see can have a huge impact on Plan's advertising campaigns, and I think in that situation, I think Plan have had a really great method of listening to young people, and I think that's very important that other organisations don't just have youth engagement for the namesake, but that they actually take a step to think about what is their organisation, what are their goals.
The young people are the future.
Yes, and also, how is it that they want to involve young people, and why, and how they're going to do it in a meaningful and effective way? I think that's very, very important, not just having it there as a yardstick.
A campaign we spoke about earlier as well, I can't remember the name, but was one that Plan is doing, and it's with all the girls' faces. What's the name of that campaign again? I've forgotten now as well.
Oh, I've forgotten as well.
But it's about violence against girls.
Yes,
isn't it?
it's a new campaign.
So has it had a positive impact? I mean, because we've seen with things, especially Boko Haram and Bring Back Our Girls campaigns, they haven't. The girls were, well, they said they were said to be released, but it does work. Campaigning does work.
It
Would
does.
you agree?
It does, absolutely. I mean, I think in that situation,
Are girls' rights ignored? That's basically what I'm saying.
Well, absolutely.
You think so still? Yeah.
Oh
okay.
yes. I mean that's why we still have organizations in existence like Plan that are fighting for these. Although I think the bridge is being gapped.
Yeah. It's getting smaller.
Sorry. Yes.
Yeah. And that's why education is very important. So you think times are changing then?
I do think so.
For the better.
I do.
Then something else we spoke about is starting at a local level, isn't it? And a community. How is it though that we can inspire children to take this lead role? To just
Yes.
How can we do that? I mean, are you doing that to younger people now, going out and saying yes, you should do it? I mean, is that how it works?
Well, I think there are two methods really. And I think, firstly, as you mentioned, having a role model out there, knowing, I think it really does make a difference. I mean, she's done that, why can I not do it? But also, I think what's very important is young people knowing how they can do it and having a toolkit out there. And I know Plan itself, I believe it was Plan actually, they actually launched a toolkit for young people on how they can be activists in their local community and make a difference. And I think it's important that they do know how. And I think first thing, that is very important if you want to be an activist, or any just advice out there, is not to work in isolation and to find young people out there, other young people out there who are in the same fight and who want to do the same thing, and to work in collaboration with other young people, I think is very, very important. But also knowing, I think the ability to, I think once you've got that going, I think that's a very strong foundation. But also knowing your issues are very important, and doing the research out there so that you do sound like you know what you're talking about when you're approaching stakeholders and decision makers out there. I think is very important. And I think that does rise from the education system. If you're brought up in an education system where you're taught how to, publicly speak, not even publicly speak, but just to be more confident and articulate, then you're able to work on these issues. You're able to do your research more effectively and to come together and like I said again, a civic education and an education where you're but you're engaged from a young age really makes a difference in the years to come. So yeah.
Something we might end on, and something you may have already touched on.
Yeah.
It's the last question. How powerful are young people?
How powerful are young people? Wow. I would like to say, in the world we live in today, with young people, genuinely so passionate and interested, and in so many situations we have seen young people out there making a difference. You have Malala, you have people at grassroots level, and people so engaged. I think young people are really the force for change, and I think it's so important that they are listened to, especially when it comes to decisions involving young people. Because you have to bear in mind, even in the UK, young people are disenfranchised below the age of 18. So I think if it's issues affecting young people, they should be consulted on, because I do think it leads to better policy outcomes. And I think many cases I've talked about today, we can see that young people can make a difference. And if you give them an opportunity, then it goes a far way towards bettering the world we live in today.
Couldn't think of a better answer myself.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much, Pooja Khatri, a youth activist from Plan UK. We have other videos. Check them out on youtube.com/Truthloader. Thank you.